Hey everyone, so today I want to do a little bit of a video response to another YouTuber that I found. My other kind of response videos seem to go down well, so I thought I'd do another one, and I was watching a few kind of like religious YouTube channels and things. I found a couple of interesting ones that I think I'd like to do video responses on in the future, including there's a whole channel about kind of like the teachings of Islam, and it touches on things like about marriages and relationships and how much makeup women should wear. It's a strange one. And I was originally going to do a video on that channel today, but then I did a little bit more digging and I came across this particular channel, and I felt this man deserved a bit of a response because he makes quite a few videos, and I don't want to sound like I'm patronising him and say like, oh, I feel so sorry for him. But he seems very angry and he seems very upset about things. And he mostly seems very angry at atheists. And I don't know, I feel like maybe if an atheist responds to him who isn't just kind of shouting down at him and trying to shut him down and tell him he's completely wrong about everything, I don't know, I think maybe it could help change his opinion, and he can see that, you know, us atheists aren't all big and scary and mean. I'll admit, I was a little bit scared to make this video because the one I'm responding to, he starts by waving a knife around.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Preaching to the Choir Ministries.
But I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that that was just some kind of attention-grabbing opening gimmick and not an actual threat. But anyway, let's get into the video.
And today, I want to talk about how atheists are just so dishonest here on the internet. You know, a lot of them don't know that there's a big difference. As a matter of fact, they probably do know. That's why they lie so much on here. But there's a big difference between a person lacking belief and then willfully saying, I will not believe no matter what you say to me. I don't want to believe it.
Well, he does basically get one thing right in that there is a big difference between lacking a belief and just not wanting to believe. But I think he takes it a step too far in assuming that all atheists just don't want to believe. The truth is that most of us, if we got the proof, and I mean like irrefutable proof, if we got that proof, we would believe in a God. It's not like it's a choice for us. It's not just that we don't want to believe. It's that without the evidence, it's just not really possible to. And when I say evidence, I mean like real irrefutable evidence. I don't just mean like a God appearing in front of me. But I mean that I want something a little bit more than just a warm, fuzzy feeling in my tummy after I've prayed. That sort of stuff, you see a lot of Christians talking about like spiritual evidence and spiritual experiences and stuff. But for me, just a warm, fuzzy feeling isn't really enough. That's not spiritual evidence to me, because that can very easily be explained away physiologically by just looking at the effect that meditation, which is essentially all prayer really is, looking at the effect that has on the body, you know, the kind of chemicals and hormones it releases and so on. So I'd like some real proof that can't be explained away by something else. That's all I'm asking for, to be able to believe that a God exists.
Atheists try to use the contradiction supposedly in Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, how there's two different creation stories. Some of them will argue that there are two Ten Commandments. And no matter how many different times you correct these people, they insist that their interpretation of what they're talking about is correct. These are the same people who have never actually read Genesis to Revelation. None of them have any real theological study or any background or any history on what they're talking about. They're just repeating what they actually read or saw on a website.
So this is kind of one of the main, I guess, like flaws in his arguments. He does make these big sort of sweeping generalizations about all atheists. And you know, while I can talk about my experience personally and say that, you know, I'll be honest, I've not read the entirety of the Bible cover to cover. I've not studied theology in an academic setting, and I'm happy to admit that. I'm not the most knowledgeable person on the Bible or religion, and I don't claim to be. But that said, I am aware that there are contradictions in the Bible, and I don't think you can just ignore those because the person who pointed them out isn't an academic. Every time I bring up something about the Bible or a holy text or something like that, especially about, you know, certain contradictions, like the ones you mentioned in Genesis or the Ten Commandments or whatever else. Whenever I talk about those, I always make sure that I try and read the passages fully and understand them. And I do think I give them, you know, the benefit of the doubt, in that I try and understand how they might be simple mistakes, how it might have been an error kind of like passed down by accident in storytelling, or how, you know, it might not actually be a contradiction at all. You know, maybe there's some way around it where they actually do mean the same thing. I do try and give it the benefit of the doubt like that, but so often there are just these big, glaringly obvious contradictions that are hard to ignore. And when you see big problems like that, it's very difficult to trust anything else that those particular authors have to say, because once you know that they've got some things wrong, how do you know that they're not getting other things wrong as well? I think it's fair to question the reliability of the Bible, and I think it's completely reasonable to want to question the reliability of any source that you read or use.
Anybody can go on Google and find these arguments on there, because they're all over the place. You can go on Google and find like a trillion different arguments against Christianity from a plethora of different religions, and you can also find the answers to all of those arguments as well. Or you can actually sit down and read the Bible for yourself and get the answers for yourself. But
so I'll admit that he kind of has a good point here, but also kind of not. Encouraging people to think for themselves and, you know, go out, do their own reading and come to their own conclusions, that's brilliant, and I agree with that completely. However, then encouraging people to only learn from one source, that's where it gets a bit problematic. Saying that people should only use one source to form their opinions, that's the big issue. That's not encouraging people to think for themselves, that's just indoctrination. As simple as that. Yes, read the Bible, but read it critically. Yes, read other sources of information, read other holy books, read scientific journals, read blog posts and articles and opinion pieces, watch videos from Christians and Muslims and atheists and Hindus and anyone else, but read them and watch them and listen critically. Don't just take one particular source as some ultimate infallible source of knowledge. Just question everything. And that's not to say that everything's wrong. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying you can't completely trust everything you read or see or hear.
you understand what I'm saying? So this is why a lot of us just say these people are easy to deal with, because they do so much of this. They don't take the time out to think about the stuff that's coming out of their mouth and actually examine themselves to see whether or not they're contradicting themselves in the things that they're saying. So
again, he actually has a pretty reasonable point here, in that some people don't always think before they speak, and some people don't realise when they're contradicting themselves, and some people make mistakes. But that's not a trait of atheists, that's a trait of people. That's just a thing that people of all backgrounds and religions and races and ages do. It's a people thing. And I think it's important to stop making these huge kind of sweeping assumptions and just saying, atheists haven't studied the Bible. Because, yeah, there are atheists who haven't maybe read the Bible or studied the Bible, but there's also atheists who know the Bible and other holy texts inside out. They've studied them for years, they understand them, and they know the good and bad things about them. And there are Christians who've barely read any of the Bible for themselves. There's people on both sides. And just because a person hasn't come to the same conclusions as you, or doesn't believe in the same things as you, it doesn't mean they don't know anything about the Bible, or that they've never studied things for themselves. It just means they're interpreting the evidence differently.
They don't want to believe. They're fighting you so that they don't have to believe. They don't have a lack of a belief. That lack of a belief mess is just a play on words. These people don't want to believe. And you can always tell when you're saying, look, this is what I believe. This is what the Bible says. Now tell me why you lack a belief in it. Don't tell me what I believe and then tell me why you have a lack of belief in it. A lot of people might try to turn around and say, well, gee, man, you do that with evolution. No, I don't. I can actually keep my mouth shut, wait for the claim to be made, and then say, okay, where's your evidence? That's all. I mean, I can do that all day long. Some of you claim that fossils is your evidence. Okay, I didn't say anything. I let Ken Owen do it. And he says, how can a bone tell you how many children they had or whatever? Okay? And I've at least done my due diligence on that.
So this whole section of the video here is basically like a kind of summary of what the entire video is about, I think. About how, you know, he thinks that atheists just don't want to believe. But then I get kind of confused by what he's saying, especially when he starts to talk about evolution and things. Because he's like saying when people talk about evolution, he's okay to be all like, where's your proof? And by the way, not just fossil records, but DNA, observations of speciation, natural selection, mutations, and so on. There's your proof. But he also says that when someone claims belief in God, we can't say where's your proof. I think I'm so confused. I just like why the double standard? I don't really understand that. Maybe I'm interpreting his words wrong. I'm a little bit unclear about what he's trying to say here. I'm not really sure.
But these atheists, they crack me up. Oh, I have a lack of a belief because I don't see any evidence. No, you don't have a lack of a belief because there is no evidence. What you have is a willful, determined mindset to not believe in a God of the Bible because you hate him. You despise him.
I kind of almost find this bit a little bit offensive, but I don't know, it's a really strange thing to think. I mean, as an atheist, how can we hate something that isn't real? Or at least that we don't believe is real because we have no proof of it being real. I mean, if I did believe in a God, then I could decide whether I liked him or hated him, right? And I mean, based on a few of the things he did in the Bible, I don't think I'd like him very much if he was real. But at the moment, I don't really have any strong feelings about him either way. At least no more than I do about any other, like, fictional character. I mean, Voldemort, he did some sucky things in Harry Potter, right? But I don't hate him, because he's not real, he's in a book. And it doesn't work the other way around. You can't decide you hate something and then just pretend it's not real. I mean, I hate spiders. Like I really, really hate spiders. But what good would it do to just pretend that spiders aren't real? Like, I suddenly see a spider in the corner of the room and instead of saying, oh my god, Dan, will you come and take the spider outside, please? It's scaring me. What if I just turned around and was like, it's okay, it's not real, there's no spider there? That wouldn't make the spider go away. Pretending it didn't exist wouldn't make it go away. It wouldn't change my feelings towards spiders. You can't just suddenly decide something isn't real because you don't like it. And that's not what atheists are doing. We're saying that we don't see any evidence for a God, we don't believe there's a God, and so we don't really have any opinion on him either way. He's just another fictional character in a book. That's all it is.
You despise him, and you love promoting you, pretty much. It's all about you and how much education you got and how great you are. You refuse to worship someone else unless he's another atheist and he's studying science like you are. Because after all, out of all the subjects in the world, there's only science. Science is all that matters. Yep.
So this is kind of another big issue I have, and another reason why I just kind of like, I think he seems like a very angry man for some reason. And I think it's a shame how with a lot of religious people, it always seems to come back to, you know, how people feel they need to worship someone or something. And I find that quite strange, because as an individual, I don't think I worship anyone. I don't worship myself. I don't worship scientists. I don't worship atheists. I don't know. Like, I have respect for myself, and I want to live the best possible life for myself. And I do act in ways that are good for me, because why wouldn't I? But at the same time, I do also respect other people, and I have respect for things they've done and work they've done. And, you know, I do act in certain ways to make other people happy, or because I want to do something nice for them. But none of that is the same as worship. I don't want to live a life, and I don't live a life where I constantly serve or worship someone or something else. To me, that doesn't really seem very fulfilling. I also feel like this man is a little bit kind of angry at science or scientists or just people who enjoy science for some reason. I don't know. It's not that atheists or whatever think that science is all that matters. That's not true. I mean, science is pretty incredible in that it explains so many wonderful things about the world. It helps us learn about the world around us, and it provides us with explanations for things that we didn't know before. Personally, I find it fascinating, and I enjoy learning about science. I enjoy talking about science. I enjoy reading about science, or at least parts of it. But I care about other things too. Like, I care about art, photography, literature, history, music, not just science. But even if a person is just interested in science, then I don't really see what the problem is. I mean, it's their life. They can focus on whatever makes them happy, can't they? I don't know. I find it a little strange that he's so angry about something that seems kind of insignificant, you know, whether someone likes science or not.
Unbelievable. Stop with this whole you're skeptics and you question everything. No, you question religion. You don't question your sciences. You don't question common sense. You don't. There's a lot of flaws in the atheist community. I mean, this video would be like 3 hours if I talked about all of them. But I just wanted to point that out, that a lot of these goofy atheists online just don't get it. They don't understand.
And this is the final point I want to make in response to this video of his. And I just want to say that yes, we do question everything. That's why research has to go through peer review before it's published. That's why people are always testing other people's work and their research, and they're carrying out new experiments and slightly different experiments. And that's why we're constantly advancing in science, and why science is constantly being updated all the time, and hell, that's why we get new editions of textbooks every year or every couple of years. Well, that, and to make sure students stay as poor as possible, probably. I feel like it's a conspiracy, you know? I don't want to speak for all atheists and say everyone does this and everyone questions everything and stuff, because that's not true, and I don't want to make these big generalizations either. I think, on the whole, people do question science, and people do question the research that's done, and people do question the conclusions that are drawn from that research. I don't know, I feel like what I will say to this guy is that on the one hand, it's great that he cares enough to be this passionate, but at the same time, it makes me sad to see someone who just seems so angry about something that honestly is just so insignificant. The fact that someone believes something different to you, it doesn't seem important to me, and the fact that he gets so angry about it is just a little bit sad. I kind of wish he'd be able to use his religion and his beliefs and his passion to kind of feel good about the world and the people in it. And I don't know, but if this is how he wants to express himself, then, you know, good on him, I guess. Anyway, I am kind of rambling a little bit here, but let me know your thoughts on this. Do us atheists just not want to believe in God? Do we just hate God? Ooh, that God. That's my angry face, can you tell? Okay, I'm being an idiot now. I'm being an absolute idiot. But if you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you again soon.